we're going to talk about ENMCS, ENMCS. You're going to hear the term in the propulsion community, ENMCS, all the time. It stands for an engine not mission capable supply. And you hear the term a lot, and I feel that a lot of people do not know what it means. In fact, I don't think I have a huge grasp of it, so correct me if I'm wrong. Add to this YouTube video. Let me know what I may be telling the world incorrectly, or add to it, whatever it may be. So to begin with, we're going to start with this board here that I've already pre-filled out. You have the wholesale supply system. You have engine lines, which is the same thing as a PDN or a Mister line, where they actually build up engines. Now this ENMCS happens to stand for engine not mission capable supply, but this can be used for other big end item parts, not necessarily engines. They might call it something differently, but the concept is the same, so follow along here. So what happens is there's a requirement for X amount of engines to be pushed through the engine line to fulfill our future needs. Headquarters tells us we have to fly X amount of hours in the future in order to supply air power to our missions, going to Afghanistan, going to Iraq, whatever it may be. So they give us the amount of flying hours. Based on those flying hours, we have all this data that accumulates, and we aggregate it, we collect it, and we analyze it. We determine that to fly those missions, we need to output X amount of engines per month, per quarter, whatever it may be. Anyways, so because the requirement is there, a system that we call Express is going to take a bad engine or a bad part, F condition from supply. It's going to drive that part to be trucked, or actually physically trucked from point A to B, and supply to the repair shop for the engines. During the actual drive there, or when they actually know this is going to happen, maintenance or some other organization will pre-order or pre-plan all the parts that are definitely going to be bad. So they say, look, we're gonna truck these two engines over to the engine line. So why don't we be proactive and order the parts that we know we're going to need from supply system? So that's basically what happens. They try to do that. They try to time it all correctly, but it doesn't quite work. So it gets to the engine line. The mechanics actually start working on the engine. They start taking off the circles, the triangles, the squares, the stars. They start repairing all those things. Well, they do that for a couple of engines, and then they realize we're missing a square in this engine. We haven't got it yet. We already ordered it. That order maybe generated a back order from the retail supply system. The supply system that's like close proximity to the engine line. So the retail supply system says, I've got a bunch of triangles, I've got circles, I've got some stars, but you know what? I'm out of squares, I'm sorry. So the retail supply will generate a back order, which will tell the wholesale supply, hey, I need that part, right? So that's a back order and whatnot. Now, since it's on the engine line and it's critical and it's very important, they're going to also create a MyCap from the retail supply system. That MyCap will generate, and it'll go to wholesale supply again. Looking at wholesale supply, though, you also do not have any squares to fill that engine hole. So since you don't have any, Express is also driving these broken squares to another repair shop under another PDN or control number, whichever way you want to call it. F condition parts go in and A condition parts go out. When the A condition parts go out, it goes back to supply, and then supply can fulfill the retail, and retail can fill the engine. That's pretty much how it goes. When the actual engine is being repaired, it's actually on the line, ready to go, and you're missing a part, that is called an ENMCS. So they'll say, this engine is missing a square, so we can't sell that engine anytime soon. Sometimes you're missing maybe a square and a circle, and somebody might say to the repair shop, hey, I really need that square really bad. But if you can't get that circle in, say, another couple weeks, how bad really is it to get the square? You can't run the engine without both parts. So you have to balance your parts availability. You have to balance your parts per engine to make sure you can get an actual engine out. Because an engine out is better than 3 of them sitting there all awaiting parts. So they try to produce as many engines as they can while keeping one awaiting the parts that you need. Let's see. So part of the repair shop that's up here that's repairing that square, you have F condition parts or bad parts coming into the shop. Sometimes these need to be routed to another job. In other words, they job route a part. So maybe they need some welding and this shop can't quite do the welding portion of the job. They'll actually create a line item on the WCD, the work control document, and this part will actually be routed to a Job routed repair. So it's got no control number. It's job routed. It can have a control number. It can be dual rolled. However, in this example, it's got no control number. It's a job routed part. They route it over to another shop on a WCD. The shop fixes it, and then it returns it back to that shop. The key point is a job routed part doesn't deal with the supply system. Nothing goes from supply. It goes from one shop to the other, and that's a job routed part. Once that part gets produced, A condition, serviceable part, it'll go back to supply, it'll be trucked back to the retail supply system and go back on the engine line, and you'll produce a good engine. So that's kind of what an ENMCS is. In short, an ENMCS is a part that's actually running, being repaired, mechanics are utilizing all the resources to repair this engine, and they're still missing a part. And that's an ENMCS.